This is Matt Shepard with Turn Supply. We've got a 2015 Taiga ASR here with the Alpha Z tower. This boat's put away for winter, but we are going to get the cover pulled off it and show you guys the CNC bases. Here we've got the CNC bases all mounted up. I wanted to give everybody a good idea of the fitment and a closer look at the hardware. We talk about offset of the bases. This is kind of what you're looking at. It's not much, but it's enough to mention. As for the lines of the tower, everything matches very nicely. Slide over here to the other side. Same thing. Everything on the tower matches up as it should. I'd also like to make mention that the hinge pins are fully seated at this depth. The set screw on the opposite side engages in the hinge pin, and this is the new takedown bolt. The old takedown bolt, you can remember, stuck out the shape of an L here, caught on life jackets, caught on towels, caught on bathing suits. It worked, but it wasn't the best design. This bolt here, or screw I should say, that holds that black handle on is less than 1/4 of an inch. So the chances of it breaking off are pretty great should someone lean into it too hard or snag it on something. We'll get back to that in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the takedown bolt on the port side. Just a slight pressure up on the arch is all it takes, and this bolt will come right out. Go ahead and take out the other side again. Slight pressure up on the arch. Takedown bolt comes out. We're going to go ahead and lay down the arch. Something I want to make note of, when the new style takedown bolt is inserted into the base, it is a tight tolerance right off the bat. This is going to make more sense when I show you the stock base. But as it engages, I want you to really see how far this takedown bolt engages into the base. That bolt is captured on both sides. From the factory, it really wasn't captured on both sides. Again, I can't move that laterally. That bolt is engaging both sides of the base. Now, in contrast to the factory takedown bolt, this is the factory bolt being inserted into the base. Now, fully inserted, it's as far as it can go, does not engage the opposite side of the base. Now, I don't know if you can see this real well or not, where that takedown bolt used to rub on the back side of the base. And that has something to do with these bases not being installed properly from the beginning. Also has to do with this bolt actually being too long from the factory. What would happen is, once inserted and tightened, if it didn't hit that hole exactly centered, it would actually spread the base, and you would end up with a crack in your base. Eventually this whole ear would be broken off. So kind of a, I don't know. On the hinge pin side, like I said earlier, that hinge pin is fully seated in the back side of the base, and that set screw is capturing an indent on that hinge pin, so it cannot come out. That is fully seated as it sits. Now, on the factory base, you can still see the factory detent on this side of its hinge pin. Now, I'm going to screw this in till it bottoms out. Okay, that's it. It is fully seated. Look how deep that hinge pin is in that base. You've got a lot of threads that are not engaged in that hinge pin. Now, I know you're not going to be able to see it in this video, but if you were to be able to look down in that hole where the set screw is supposed to sit and engage that recess, it does not. It is impossible for it to engage the recess. And I'll show you why. Because that is the recess there. And that is fully engaged. That recess is barely visible inside of that set screw hole. Now, on this set of bases, this hinge pin was actually screwed in all the way. The set screw did make contact with it and held it in place, but this hinge pin was fully seated. Now, on this base, which was the opposite side, this hinge pin on the opposite side, this hinge pin was only able to go in about that far. What that meant was, you can see that the factory recess was nowhere close to being engaged with that set screw. Now, again, prior to owning the boat, before this set screw was able to engage this pin and hold it somewhat tight, it had time to waller out that hinge pin hole. And again, something prevented it. It could have been the tower misaligned from the factory, but something was preventing this hinge pin from fully seating. Which, again, that is a fully seated hinge pin, and if you glance down in there, it is nowhere close to being able to engage that recess. So, between the wallered out hole in the hinge pin on this side to the tolerances of the takedown bolt, and lack of engagement, were a lot of opportunities for this tower to experience movement and ultimately lead to a lot of problems with cracking, as we had here. It's the tolerance of the new takedown bolt. Very little movement when engaged on one side, When fully seated, nearly zero movement. I'm going to go ahead and lift this back up into place. We're going to insert our hinge pin back in. Going to give it a little bit of upwards pressure on the tower arch. Make sure those threads engage as they should. Once it clears the arch, you may feel a slight interference as it begins to make its way into the backside of the base. Once that hinge pin fully seats, you will not be able to tighten it anymore. That's the beauty of this. There's no wondering, did I tighten it enough? When it's fully seated, when that hinge pin is fully seated in the base, it will not turn anymore. Slight interference when you feel it engage the back side of the base. That's it. When it stops, it is fully seated.